Welcome to our Starseed series. I'm Urania with Urania Heart Metaphysics.
And I'm Jackie B with Growth Jackie B LLC in the Free and Fully Expressed movement.
This video series is where we break down the Starseed soul groups, sharing their key essences to spark your remembrance. Just keep in mind you will likely resonate with many of these Starseed soul groups. However, there may be a few that are more dominant at this time in your life.
So let's start out with reflecting on some people aren't meant to be the loudest people in the room. They aren't here to lead from the front or initiate big change, right? Their power works differently. They notice what's missing, and then they are the ones that steady that wobble that we can feel in life. They refine what already exists so it can last. So these people often go unnoticed, right? Or unannounced, right? Not because they lack the impact, but because their contribution is more quiet, subtle, but foundational. In this video, we're going to explore the three lineages that are rooted deep into support, precision, and stabilization. We're going to talk about Procyon. Am I saying that right? Procyon.
Yeah.
Procyon, Spica, and Nihal. So listen, just really don't rush in the recognizing yourself. Just allow it to come through and slowly allow those truths to land within you. We're going to start off by going on Procyon. And this energy is all about support, assistance, and really making that growth possible. So these star seeds support growth from behind the scenes. They are the ones who notice what is missing before anyone asks. They are the one who quietly fills those little gaps without even like noticing they're there, right? Like you may not even notice there's a gap. They see the gap and they'll quietly fill it without being asked. They are the star seeds that really make things work without needing the recognition for it. They're often drawn to assisting roles, not because they lack leadership, but really because their nervous system is wired for that support momentum rather than the initiation momentum. They are sensitive to imbalance, and they can feel when something feels even slightly off. A system, a relationship, a process, and instinctively they go to stabilize it. The shadow that they hold is invisibility. Because their contribution can be subtle, they can be undervalue themselves, right? So they may believe that what they have to offer is small or replaceable, and they don't really see their true potential and their value. So when it comes to that, like remembering that their energy actually is foundational. That is part of who they are, right? And without it, growth can collapse upon its own weight. It's that subtle support that we actually need. So the gift that they have is that quiet reliability that they hold. And how we integrate this energy for the star seed is really about learning that support doesn't mean that you neglect yourself, right? And that their presence truly does matter, even when it's not in the spotlight.
Awesome. So indicators of Procyon star seeds in the birth chart include themes of service, support, and restoration. Signs that reflect these themes the most are Cancer, Virgo, Libra, Aquarius, and Pisces. And this is most important if your rising sun and moon are placed in these signs, or there are two or more planets in these signs. So let's start with Cancers. Cancers are the nurturers, the caregivers, and the masters of creating the ideal space for things to thrive. They are very intuitive, often knowing what is needed before it is said. Virgos are often overlooked and tend to put others' needs before their own, and they tend to be incredibly undervalued. Libra, similar to Virgo, default to others' needs and can lean into people pleasing. Their core desire is centered around restoring balance of all things here on Earth. Aquarius is the sign that doesn't really need recognition, and they tend to avoid the spotlight, at least in their mind, although visually they are very weird sometimes, just in their appearance and the energy that they produce. But naturally, they tend to want to be out of the spotlight. And one of the major influences, or the major way this comes through, is with the sun in Aquarius. So if your sun signs in Aquarius, traditionally this is considered to be a weak point for the sun, as it is far away from its home in Leo, where it shines bright. It's like it's in its own realm, its own season. And so it's very strong. And so when the sun is in Aquarius, especially if you're in the northern hemisphere, and this is just to give you an idea of it being out of the spotlight, the January season, February, is when the sun essentially is at its lowest point in the sky, and it's winter time, it's cold, and so the sun is not thriving. And so there's this energy of like avoidance or not being recognized. And so Aquarius really holds that energy. They tend to be focused more on the group and not on themselves, and they're also very dependent, they're also very dependable. Finally, Pisces. Pisces has a quiet energy about themselves. They can actually be invisible because they're really good at either blending into the environment around them. They're good with merging with energies, or they just merge with whoever else is in the space, right? And they also have this tendency to put others first and undervalue themselves. So they can lose themselves in service to others, or just simply being in a space and not having clear boundaries of what their own energy is versus what the energy is of the space or the people they're engaging with. So finally, planets to consider are Venus, where Venus is centered around balance, equality through service. The moon also shows the representation of Procyon, as it's very intuitive, nurturing, often knowing what something needs before, the needs are really seen, before it's like physical or all knowing. It's a very intuitive sense, and the moon represents that. And then also Pluto. Pluto is really interesting because Pluto represents the subconscious. And so there's this essence of the unseen energy, energy that's overlooked at times. And Pluto holds this like this capability of making things really, really small. Like it can either like make things really small or blow things out of proportion. In this case, there's a need for balance in a sense. And then when we think about Pluto as, within itself in astronomy, Pluto was once considered a planet. Now it's not a planet, it's considered a dwarf planet. And so again, there's this there's this experience of being maybe undervalued, like, oh, I'm not, on planetary status anymore, or being unseen or not recognized for its own power, as Pluto does hold a lot of power in reference to the unseen energies and the unconscious. So take note that these themes may show up as strengths, but also they can show up as shadow points that will ultimately provide opportunities for connecting more deeply with Earth.
100%. Now let's move to Spica starseeds. This starseed is all about precision, refinement, and calibration. They are the starseeds and the people that see the details that others miss. They notice that extra word in the sentence. They see that slight imbalance in the system. And they can notice the places where something almost works, but it's not quite there, right? That little like hiccup in life's rhythms. They're the natural refiners. They often reinvent everything, right? They'd rather reinvent it than improve, like because then they can prove it's there, right? It's not starting something new. It's like, how can I improve? How can I fine tune what already is good and make it even better? That type of energy. And because of this, the Spica starseeds really are often drawn to like that editing, that organization, that teaching, healing type of roles. Really, the roles that require the clarity and discernment skill set. The challenges that they have are perfectionism. So when you see so clearly and see everything, it's hard to stop the refining process, right? So they might start feeling restless when things are messy or vague or incomplete. Their nervous system really relaxes in that order, in that clarity. the gift that they hold is that precision and discernment, right? But how we can integrate both sides of this, the shadow and the light, is really stepping in when you allow good enough to be enough, right? And it's not like the constant striving for perfection when you realize that perfection is actually illusion and what we have is just as beautiful. And so when we remember that the refinement is meant to serve life, not exhaust it. So these star seeds really thrive when that clarity feels supportive, not like it's a punishment.
Wow, I can really feel the signature for myself. This hits deep. Okay. So the indicators of Spica star seeds in the birth chart include themes of discernment, precision, refinement, and recalibration. And I'm sure you can guess what sign reflects these themes the most, or signs, I should say. So we have Gemini, Virgo, and Capricorn. Gemini and Virgo are very, very similar energies. They hold very similar energies in the sense of they both have keen insight. They're both very good with refinement, improvement, and just making things better and really seeing what is out of balance, what's out of sync within a system, and then being able to have the necessary tools or to find the necessary tools to um, get the system working efficiently, whatever that system is. So Gemini is more focused on like the external systems, so to say, like, with individuals, like within stories, within communication, within language, within, transportation. Gemini is kind of associated with these outwardly systems. Virgo is more centered around the internal system. So we can think the body, health, routines, like even computers, right? I know Gemini has a connection with like computers as well, but Virgo is really good at just looking at the details in the internal system. So there's like an external expression and an internal expression, but at the end of the day, they still hold the same energy of that very keen sight, attention to detail, refinement, and improvement. Capricorn, of course, I'm sure you probably could guess Capricorn was one of these signs, as they desire mastery. They want things done well, don't care how long it's going to take. We're going to do it well, or we're not going to do it at all. Right. So they are focused on order, clarity, refinement, perfection, etc. And the planets to consider are going to be Mercury, of course, with that attention to detail. And Mercury is associated with really small things, small details, small energy. And Mercury is essentially the smallest planet in our solar system, but it's very fast moving, it's very intense, and it's very impactful, right? So even those smaller things have a great impact on a larger system. And so Mercury kind of reflects that energy as well. Venus is focused on refinement and perfection, and that comes through beauty and wanting to improve things or perfect things in a very like that refinement is key. Like when we think about the refinement of, I don't know, like oils and wine and so forth, just making things better and better so they're more enjoyable, pleasurable, and so forth. So it can come out in that way. And Saturn's very similar to Capricorn energy, essentially, with, the mastery, the discipline to get things in order, to refine things and so forth. And there is like this perfectionist or this ideal way of that things should unfold, right? And there's a system and there's a step by step. So if you see a lot of Mercury or Venus or Saturn, in the sense of there are a lot of planets making connections with them, or they're in a profound place, say your rising sign or the midheaven or anything like that, that will give you an indication that this planet is really important, and there might be a connection with Spica starseed soul groups.
Beautiful. Now let's shift to the Nihal star seeds. This starseed group is all about stabilization, presence, and stillness. Nihal energy can be very subtle yet powerful. These star seeds often are the ones that feel out of sync with time, so to say. They may feel like they're either too early or too late, or simply on a completely different rhythm of life altogether. Because they're not meant to rush, right? So they're not meant to keep up on our human cycles of like our almost like hustle culture, go, go, go. They really march to their own beat of drum. They're often the greatest, often their greatest contribution, so to say, isn't what they do. It's really how they are, how they operate, right? They stabilize spaces simply by being present. The room starts feeling calmer when they arrive. Conversation starts slowing down. It's like it shifts into the natural rhythm of life, brings you back into that anchor versus the illusion of time and the time pressure that we can put on ourselves, right? And because their power can be quiet, these star seeds often can start doubting themselves. They may feel like they're not doing enough or they're moving or things are moving too fast, right? Because their nervous system is wired for that stillness and coherence. The gift they hold is that embodied calm, that and to be able to integrate both that light, that gift, right, that light and the shadow, really for them the process is really trusting that their presence is enough, and that not all impact needs loud movement or loud noise, right? So the Nihal energy really reminds us to that stabilization is a form of leadership in itself.
Awesome. So, indicators of Nihal star seeds in the birth chart include themes of presence, stillness, and stabilization. So, the signs that reflect these themes the most are Taurus, Cancer, Capricorn, and Aquarius. And recall that these are most important if your rising sun and moon are placed in these signs, or you have two or more planets in these signs. So, starting with Taurus, Taurus is very calm, very slow moving, quiet energy. They can kind of take the hold the presence of the space through their energy by just how stable they are. Like they're so grounded, they kind of hold the foundation and the structure of the space, and therefore there's a sense of presence or stillness that they embody, as well as that stability. And so they can really, like, people will gravitate towards their energy, or towards them, as it is a stabilizing vibration. Cancers move in their own rhythm. They are connected with the moon. So that rhythm is predictable in a sense, which creates that opportunity for stabilization. They value their private time, right? They're considered to be at times the hermit of the zodiac. And so that private time and that quietness is really important for them to find their own sense of stillness, for them to be present with their emotions, their own energy, and to stabilize themselves. And they're very intuitive, which is best supportive for, personal security. And again, for that stabilization of being able to just tune into their environment or people around, which then that creates a safe space and an ability to be present in that space. Capricorn. So Capricorns are strong stabilizers through their structure and their predictability, and also they're very slow moving. So as I mentioned with the Spica group in Capricorn's energy there, they want mastery, they want things done well. So slowness is key. Like, let's not rush and do it. Let's plan it out. Let's take our time. And that planning and that taking time takes, presence. It takes the ability to be calm, and even in the midst of chaos, because we have to create a plan, and so that we can move forward and that we can stabilize the energy or create whatever it is, the structure or whatever it is that you're wanting to create. So with Capricorn, their energy can also be very quiet, as they tend to keep their emotions very close. They're very stoic. And so, in a sense, they again can create some sort of energy around them that's very present and strong and set the tone of the space. And then a sign that's kind of almost completely different from what I just shared is Aquarius. But Aquarius is here because they have very unique energy. They're literally known for following the beat of their own drum, moving in their own rhythm at their own pace. And this unique energy is it sets the tone of the space and the group, and they are able to stabilize their own field because they're so in tune with their own rhythm and their own energy, and they're not, swayed or they're not distracted in most ways by other energies because they're so connected to, their own essence. And so, of course, this can be something that, they're working on with any of these signs. It could be they might not really have this mastered, and they're working on that. So these themes may also show up as shadow points, is where I'm going with that. So the planets to consider for Nihal are the moon and Venus, right? They're the providers of compassion, flow, intuition, and presence. They give that time for stabilization to take place.
Beautiful. And like we said earlier, the whole point of this is to really see if anything resonates, even one little line resonates, and let it land gently. Because not all power is meant to be loud, right? Not all contribution is meant to be visible. So really, it's about some people steady the world simply by staying present with it. And so that's the big takeaway for this week's trio of star seeds.
Thank you for watching, and make sure you check out our other videos in the Starseed series. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want to continue with this content.